Good morning, everyone.
Hey, hey.
Hello.
Hi,
Happy,
good morning.
good morning. Happy final day, final Saturday of August, not the final day of August. Tomorrow will be that. Or if
Mhm.
you're in Australia and it is officially midnight, I guess happy Sunday morning to you.
Yeah.
But and we have Betsy is missing, but she's not going to be missing for long. She was running a little bit late. She'll be joining us, but we have two special guests joining us again today. And we have Christopher. Hey there, Christopher. How are you?
Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Love it, love it.
Great.
And
Our
David with the
member of the week,
moon.
always surrounded by stars.
We're surrounded by stars, no matter which way you slice it.
Yeah.
We have a theme this week.
We do
Yes.
have a theme, and we're sticking to it. Oh, well, let's see. Well, Melanie was the first to blast off and join the chat an hour before we even
Mhm.
began the live cast. So she said she's staying awake, staying awake, staying awake. So hopefully she still will be still awake. Rick has joined us from Southern Ontario as well. Sue Murray from just down the road, so to speak. Tia is here, and Fiordalisi.
Hey, Anne, we missed her last week.
Yeah, that's right. It was unusual we didn't have Anne joining us last week. John Tyner from Ireland has joined us again. Chris Feriolo, how you doing, Chris? Tamara Sims from Cleveland has joined. Amanda as well as Melanie is here. Hillary from Wales. And that's it at the moment, but more will be streaming in as we go along. And if you're watching after the fact, welcome to you as well. And thank you for joining us. So why don't we start off with our special guests?
Yeah. But there's Betsy. Betsy,
There.
first of all, I wanted to say hi to Patty. I saw Patty there in the chat. My dear friend. I didn't hear you mention him.
Oh,
Well,
did I?
we have
Yeah, there was
yeah,
Patty.
you
Sorry.
missed him.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we have Christopher Childs
Mhm.
today. He's our member of the week. And first of all, I need to say he's not Christopher Child from
Oh.
the NEHGS. Am I
Right.
right?
Right.
Or am I confusing the letters? Who's a professional genealogist? Please don't confuse him with him. Uh, he made that very clear, and he asked me
Oh.
to clarify that. So, Christopher, you've been a WikiTree for 9 years or so,
Yeah.
or yeah,
Right.
9 years. Yes, and you were drawn into WikiTree after trying other platforms who said
Yes.
to be free, but they were not.
Ooh.
So here we are. Tell us about your journey with genealogy. You inherited this.
Yes. My family has always had a certain awareness of certain ancestors. My father was descended from Marie Barrett Dyer, who was the Quakeress who was hanged in Boston in 1660. And when I was a little tiny guy at the age of 9, I was actually taken to the dedication of a statue of Mary Dyer that sits in front of the
Wow.
Massachusetts State House. And my mother, on her side, she was very quiet about it, but she had Mayflower ancestry. Uh, Actually, it turned out not the one she thought, but we, that's another story. But
Uh-huh.
actually, one of the early things I did when I joined WikiTree was to disprove our connection to the ancestors she thought she had.
Oh
And
no.
Wow.
I thought we had two left. Well, one of them was Matthew Fuller, who turns out not to be a Mayflower offspring. And finally, we settled on Richard Warren. But that general awareness of some ancestors really led very after a very long time led me into more serious pursuits. And part of the stimulus for that, I had a wonderful sister-in-law, Sherry Fraser, who's unfortunately gone now. Sherry did a lot of very serious work on our family, stimulated by the fact that a land shark lawyer contacted us and said he thought we had a land claim on Martha's Vineyard, which would have been fabulously valuable. So Sherry did a lot of work, and she had Parkinson's, though. And as she slowed down, by default, really, I wound up stepping in. That's how I really came to WikiTree, and that's how I got really intensely involved in genealogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you were saying your ancestors migrated, and so you're an active part of the Mayflower Project and the Puritan Great Migration Project.
Yes.
So, do you want to tell us something about your work there?
Well, the PGM is where I have spent the bulk of my time researching people from that time period. The Mayflower work has revolved almost entirely around Matthew Fuller, Captain Matthew Fuller. If anybody who's aware at all of what's happened in the last couple of years, he's been a figure of considerable focus for professional genealogists for over a century, debating whether or not he was the son of the Fuller couple who came across on the Mayflower. And why DNA testing finally a couple of years ago absolutely proved he cannot be Edward Fuller's son. So a tremendous amount of work has been done since then, trying to figure out who his actual ancestors were. He was related to Edward Fuller and his wife on the Mayflower, but he just was not their son. And I think I've revised Matthew's profile now at least 4 times, and other folks have done it at least an equal number of times, because trying to keep up with the serious genealogy, it really takes some time and effort. So that's the Mayflower side. But the PGM side, I have, like a lot of folks, I have a raft of Great Migration immigrants, some of them Puritans, some of them not, but they all came over under the umbrella of the Great Migration. So it really takes a phenomenal amount of time. There are more than 30,000 Great Migration immigrants candidates for our attention. And that work's not going to be done while I'm still on the planet. But I'm glad to contribute, at least from time to time when I can.
Yeah. You say you spend like 20 or 40 hours a week sometime.
Yeah,
on WikiTree.
Yeah, I've slowed down a little bit. There was a long period there when I was spending up to 60, even 80 hours a week, and now now it's unusual for me to go over 40.
Imagine. And you were talking about Captain Fuller.
Yes.
I began this interview saying that you're easily confused with Christopher Child.
Right.
So, but there was a time when that led to a happy or a lucky confusion for you.
Well, that's true. Every once in a while, I have received emails that were actually intended for Mr. Child, who is eminent, and he is the editor of the Mayflower Descendant. I've never met him. I'd love to. But what happened in late 2022, I think it was, a serious group of both genetic genealogists and classic traditional genealogists had an email exchange discussing what had not yet been published, the Y-DNA results that proved Matthew Fuller could not be a Mayflower direct descendant. And I was included in that, and because the subject was my ancestor, initially I thought, well, that's interesting. They must have found me on WikiTree. And after a very short period, I realized, whoops, no, they thought they were sending emails to Mr. Child at NEHGS. So I corrected them, and unfortunately, after that, I was excluded from the email thread because I really enjoyed having that in to that discussion. But it's a little bit flattering to me to be confused with him. But on the other hand, I have my own identity, and I've been on the planet about twice as long as Mr. Child. So I'm happy to have it clarified that we are not the same guy.
Okay. Well, and you have made a lot of discoveries about using DNA. Not only this one that was a coincidence, but
Right.
yourself.
And that involved a lot of serious professionals because it was related to the Mayflower. But in my own line, on my paternal side, we did not know. I don't know that my father really knew that much about the history of his surname side, the Childses. It turns out that we actually have the surname from my third great grandmother. She had a child out of wedlock in 1812. That was my second great grandfather, William Henry Childs. And it took quite a while for me to even discover who his mother was. I did a couple of runs at it and had one line that looked good, and somehow instinctively I just knew. I mean, it is really interesting. One of the things in my professional life, one of the things I do is I write about and think a great deal about intuition, the real thing, not just gut feelings, but an actual ability to sense things.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this line set up that looked good for my second great grandfather, and I just knew it was wrong. So I went down another path, another rabbit hole, and that led to a child who was born out of wedlock named William Dubbin Childs. But I just had the sense, yeah, it looks good, but not quite right. And finally, third try, I wound up finding his mother, Ann Childs, Chiles in the original spelling. And that locked in, and that was clearly the right line. But it took DNA testing to give us a hint who was his biological father. And I was very lucky in the sense that the Y-DNA results connected me to a family with a not very common surname, Pavord, spelled various different ways. And that led me to connect with a cousin in Newfoundland whom I obviously never met, never heard of. He had been looking for his English ancestry for a long time. He knew that he was a descendant of one of two brothers who came to Canada, I think around 1850 or a little earlier. And both brothers had drowned. They were probably farmers in England. They came over to Canada and tried to become fishermen, which is a risky business, no matter whether you're born to it or learning it. And he couldn't figure out where they came from. It just so happened that I had been investigating a Pavard family in the border area between the counties of Somerset and Dorset. And it happened to fit what he knew about his ancestors, the two brothers who died. And he knew DNA a lot better than I did, but I had done a lot of work by then on traditional genealogy. And between the two of us, we actually were able to find not only to narrow down my biological second great grandfather, almost certainly to one of two teenage boys who lived very near my third great grandmother, Ann Childs, and were about her age. And simultaneously, for my Newfoundland cousin, Fred, we were able to really pretty much lock in the family in that area, the same family, different generation, from which had come the two brothers who crossed to Canada. So it was a really extraordinary and quite wonderful experience. And Fred has been over. Unfortunately, he went over a year ago and did not find any living Pavards in that area currently, which is too bad. It would have been lovely for him to find some cousins. I'm not sure how excited they would have been to learn that one of their ancestors had fathered my second great grandfather. There are skeletons in the closet there that they might or might not be happy to have rattled. But that was a really fascinating combination for me of traditional and genetic genealogy.
Yeah, that's great. That's one of those magic finds with DNA. And I wanted to talk to you about, I mean, would you tell us a little about your personal life? Because you have so so much interesting things to tell. I mean, you're an actor, you've been a writer, a poet, but you were also an activist
I
and did a
was.
great job.
Yeah, that I was quite content in my acting career. As we're talking now, 40 years ago. I was trembling on the brink of modest success in a profession that's very difficult. But I was, I thought I was making progress. And the short version is that a big hand came down from the sky and seized me by the collar and said, "When I said I wanted you to act, that is not what I meant." I suddenly found myself leaning to activism, and one thing led to another, and I wound up working for Greenpeace. And I had really, for my abilities and my intentions, I had the perfect job for almost a decade. I was the traveling mouthpiece for Greenpeace in the United States. And I gave slide lectures at about 300 colleges and universities, and maybe another 100 churches and schools and other groups. And along the way, got arrested 5 times, which
Wow.
not my idea of fun, but we were protesting. In every case, we were protesting pollution in local communities, usually low-income communities, some communities of color, where people really needed assistance, and the problems they were facing through no fault of their own desperately needed to be brought to the attention of the media and the public. So I was very happy and proud to be involved in that work for as long as I was.
That's great. That's great. Well, I bet you have a lot of stories, and thank you for that work as an activist, and also thank you for your work as a WikiTreeer, as a very active WikiTreeer. So I wish you luck on your projects. I hope you get the help you need for those projects. And I invite you all to participate on the Mayflower project. And the other one was the PGM, right?
Right.
Project. So I invite you, Christopher, to see the profile makeovers of this week, the final makeovers of this month, because I know you appreciate a good narrative, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. So let's go there. I gave you a teaser last week, remember? That Sandy left me a surprise here. And for the profile makeover, she said she was going to use the memories theme very loosely. So she said that her memory of creating a profile escaped her. So she found this profile that is connected to this week's theme, and she gave it a makeover. And so I'll show you. Here we have, this is the before. This is the William Lawrence Presley, who is the grandfather of Eleanor Crockett Presley, which we will see. Greg is going to tell us all about Eleanor. And Sandy found that her grandfather, William, is related to her husband. So she took this left abandoned profile, as I always said, this sad profile, and she turned this. You see, there's no biography, only dates of birth and death, and she turned it into this. She started researching William's life, and it turned out that he was very prominent. Look at this photo; it's amazing. You can tell he was an important person. from this photo. He was a ministry, and he was a minister of the Associate Reformed Presbyterian Church in America. And as his father, he also did this, played this role, and they together. Let me check what Sandy said. She said that that William was a major influence in the Associate Reformed Seminary and Church with his father Ebenezer, having founded the Associate Reformed Presbyterian Church in Due West, South Carolina. So thank you, Sandy, for taking good care of William. So from this to this amazing profile with sources, and finding he was an important person for his community. So that's great. She made justice to this profile.
Very
Sorry
handsome
about
profile.
yes, it looks great. So different,
Amazing.
right? Yeah, it's an extreme makeover.
Extreme.
Yeah. I also want to show you. I suggest you to work on a theme. This month was memories, but it's just a suggestion. We have a regular makeover, nothing to do with memories, and this was done by Melanie. Or it was Amanda. No, this was made by Amanda Myers.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I knew it was one of our Australian friends. So Amanda found this. This is a shame. His name was listed as Father Australia placeholder.
Oh my
Windy
goodness.
Bank. Yeah,
Australia.
that's
Well,
terrible. So this generated a suggestion, and Amanda was working on suggestions, and she said, "I can't leave this like
no.
this." So she researched and found that this man was Edward Clark Windybank.
Oh.
That is such a generous thing to do, to give someone an identity.
Right.
And not only that, but she found a picture, a photograph of his family.
Wow.
And
Wow.
there's no wonder why maybe they couldn't find his name, because Windybank, which is a peculiar surname, is listed as Windaybank, Windaybank.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can see why it was difficult to
Right.
find his identity. And we even have an obituary now. So great work, Amanda.
Awesome.
Thank
Wow.
you for... I bet Edward is really thankful in heaven, I hope. And
See, if it
I
was
will
mine, it
show
would
you...
say Windbag, not Windy Bank.
Right. And I will show you very quick 3 profiles made by Lynn Young. Lynn proposed herself to write memories on every close ancestor, every close relative she had. But she made these 3 profile makeovers. We had already seen a makeover on this profile, the profile of Flossie, which is her great-grandmother. Remember we saw a background with a crochet? Maybe some of you will remember that. And so this profile we know, but she even added more improves, because Lynn is now using this style. She adds this before the table of contents. She adds like a summary of facts of every person, which is something that I find really interesting. Then the table of contents, the biography, which we already know. She added photos. These photos weren't here before. And then she added, I had already showed this new style, but I think it's a good idea to show it again. She adds persons. Remember, Lynn was the author, to say, so to say, of the contextual research style, or at least I have seen that only from her. But she changed that. I bet it was a great deal of work. So she said to place Flossie, her great grandmother, into its historical context, she always puts 5 profiles of people who lived by the same time, contemporary. So she says these people lived at the same time as Flossie. For instance, Amelia Earhart, and Frank. And she added memories, which are beautiful. Lynn, I read them all. I won't read it again here, but you are an amazing writer, and you did a great job. And this is Lynn's great grandfather, Neil Harrell. He also uses this section, which is a good idea that you can rescue if you like it. Take a look at these profiles and get inspired. And also, Lynn is adding this. I saw this on her profiles. I'm sure she searched somewhere on the web what happened on the day of the birth and the death of a person. So she found that Harold died the same day as John Boyer Updike, which is an American author.
Yes.
That's other way to give context, right?
Great idea.
She also added these 5 notables who lived contemporarily, and added some memories too. She doesn't have many memories of Harold, but what she remembers, she put there. And that's nice for any other relative to come. And this is her father, James Arthur Young, who has the most beautiful memories. He was such a vibrant person. He joked with everyone. He married twice, and Lynn is her first wife's daughter. And I can tell she was very close with her father. This is such a nice profile. She put these pictures. We have a lot of pictures of him. And she wrote all the story. He passed away by, oh, sorry, I missed a year, but it was recently. He passed away in 2019, recently. So these are the kind of profiles that need memories. We have them so fresh. So be sure to put memories there for our relatives to come. And you can see here an example. Jim was born the day the United Nations General Assembly convened for the very first time. She finds these historical facts. And the day Jim died, also, it was when Nancy Pelosi announced the start of the first impeachment against Donald Trump. That's more, it's pressure on our memories. Historical context, and she added his DNA information. So these are all very good ideas of things that you can add to a profile. Not very traditional, so she's really innovating. And that's what I wanted to show you.
Yeah.
Well, this is Christopher's profile. Yes, that's it. That's our profile makeovers for this month. So thank you to everyone who participated. And for next month, I was thinking of myself from the next theme. And I thought it was a good idea to focus on 2 colors for next month. So the theme for next month will be black and white.
Oh.
And I said, well, black and white are surnames, right? And you can find that surname in many languages, like Blanco, Bianco, Schwartz. And you can think of people who maybe were dressed all the time in white because of their jobs, because of they were mourning someone, maybe always dressed in black. So be creative.
I love
I
it.
know you will be inspired.
Or pianists.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what I was
exactly.
Yes,
Ebony and
Exactly.
Ivory. Yeah.
I thought of that. Or maybe someone who likes to play domino.
Dominoes, yes.
Dominoes, yes.
Or chess.
Yes, exactly. I know you will be creative. So that will be for next month.
How fun.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Just going back to the contextual setting profiles in context of history. I was talking to a class of my young flutists about Claude Debussy. And what sort of like, French composer, dead a long time ago. But then I said to him, he was born right as the Civil War was going on here in the United States. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, I have a hook now.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah,
because that turns him into someone real, not just a photo on an encyclopedia.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that historical context idea. That's great. What was going on when you were born? What was going on when your grandfather passed away? I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and putting that like kind of I don't know if you say almanac, almanac. The kind of facts that day this happened.
Right.
I love that idea.
Or the weather. The weather that day. It's not recorded. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. It's so simple, but it gives great context and a great idea of that people's life, that person.
June has a good idea. Black and white can refer to newspapers.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right. Adding newspaper articles too.
A musician who read the music. How do you call that?
Braille?
Partitures? No. Oh, come on. You're musicians. You read the notes.
Musical notes?
Musical notes?
Oh, yeah. The stat, the notation. Musical notation is all black and white. Yes, generally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Well.
David, we lost your connection to the moon. The Wi-Fi is a little flaky up there.
And a space storm up here.
A space storm, yes.
Earth to David.
Well, before we lose you again, Denise, do you want to?
Yes. Well, everyone recognizes David, and he's not here to talk about the Notables Project today. Actually, he's here to talk about a project that was adopted by the Notables Project. It was the Astronaut Project. It's a project that never became active, but it was an idea that a WikiTree member thought of and started working on. And it just developed into a project to identify the astronauts. And since our theme today is space and the astronauts, I thought it would be a good idea to have David come and talk to us about that project. David, how you doing up there?
I'm good. I don't know if you have ability to pull the project up on screen, or
yes, I do. I can actually. Okay. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, we have a little.
We have the technology.
Here in Texas, it's not too bad, but it's apparently enough to knock the power out. So hopefully it'll stay on for a while. So the Astronauts Project is, as Denise was just mentioning, it's what we call a mini project. And that's a phrase I hadn't heard until too recently, but it seems to be coming up more and more common. But it's basically what we also refer to as a free space project. And the reason I was particularly happy to come on and talk about this project is that these are the kinds of member created projects that I'm not sure a lot of people realize that they can bring about on their own or with their small group of associates. And so I kind of wanted to talk about the history of this project and how it was set up and what can be done with it at this point. So this was a project that was created by an individual member and using a face space page. And somebody just asked me yesterday, after being a member of the Notables Project for a couple of years, how do I create a face page? Face page and face space. What? No, now I'm drawing. Now I'm getting my words mixed up here. But free space page, not face space. Free space page.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, the age is starting to catch up to me. So I didn't realize, but apparently there's a lot of people who don't even know how to do that, and it sounds possibly overwhelming to people. I don't know how to create a whole page and how to do all that. Well, it's really very, very simple, and ultimately it's not a whole lot different than creating a profile page for one of your ancestors. So you go up to the add button at the top of any page, and there's a drop-down menu, and towards the bottom, you'll see the new person profile. Right above that is create a free space page. You click on that, and all you have to do is add a title, and that'll be your URL. So it's going to be something you want to remember, something fairly simple. And you can ignore all the rest of the boxes to begin with. Put in your title, go down and push save at the end. Create a page, I think is what it says, and your page will be up. And then you edit it just like any other profile. So it's really that simple. So the next piece to that is you got to come up with, what you want, what the parameters of your project are going to be. So we have an individual that created the astronauts project, and he wanted to work specifically with the old time astronauts. So he has all the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronauts up there. And then he's got a list of some of the more recent astronauts who have passed away. Because there's a slew of astronauts. Now, when I was a kid and you talked about astronauts, you were talking about a couple dozen people at most. Nowadays, we've got hundreds of people that have been into space and hundreds more that are astronauts, even if they haven't been. And you not only have American astronauts and Russian cosmonauts, but now you've got astronauts from virtually every country in the world. It's amazing when you look at a list of countries that have sent astronauts into space. It's pretty amazing. And nowadays, when somebody gets sent into space, we don't even pay attention. But when most of us were kids, that was a really big deal. So that was, for nostalgic purposes, that was his interest. He liked learning about the Space Corps, so he made a list of astronauts and then started working on their profiles. And he did this pretty much on his own. So a free space page project or a mini project is something you can do on your own if that's what you're inclined to do. I have actually one or two that I've created just kind of for myself that I work on in my spare time that I haven't taken or made the effort to publicize or go out and attract membership. But you can also put something on G2G and say, hey, I have this free space project going. Anybody want to join me? And you'd be surprised at how many people will want to participate. And then you not only get fellow genealogists that you can become friends with and socialize with, but you got genealogists that have an interest in whatever topic it is you have as your secondary interest. So, and again, it could be anything. It can be a mini project. Oh, let me say one more thing before I go there. And a mini project doesn't have to be affiliated with a larger project. You can just do it all on your own. You don't need any approval. Now, some people want to connect with the bigger projects, so a lot of people do them under the Notables project. But if yours is country related, you could do. We have people that do, Australian football players or, Scottish athletes or English actors, whatever pertains to their home country, and that's fine too. Work under a country, but you don't have to. You can just create it on your own, post a message on G2G, and get a little group of friends together to start working on these projects. So again, with the astronauts, what he did was wanted to create some uniformity between. So you've got your Apollo astronauts, and if you go through each one of them, they're all set up kind of identical to each other, different stories, but the format's the same, so that there's a running theme throughout, and that's great because when you're reading on a topic like that, it's kind of nice to have that consistency from profile to profile, rather than each time you log on to a profile, you got to figure out where everything is compared to the one before. Now, the astronauts project, he did a really thorough job on this, and most of the astronauts have very thorough biographies, and their family trees are fairly well fleshed out. There's some exceptions to that rule. In fact, as I was going through them, I found one astronaut whose profile, he's still living. There's only a handful that are still living, but his profile had somehow gotten locked and was blocked from view, and nobody's ever worked on it. So here you have this man who walked on the moon and doesn't have a profile on WikiTree, or doesn't have a fleshed out profile on WikiTree. So the question becomes, so what can we do with this project? Well, we have astronauts' wives, we have astronauts' parents, we have astronauts' children. There's all kinds of fascinating stories. I love researching the stories of kind of the one tier away from the celebrity. The parents often have fascinating lives. What kind of parents raise astronauts? The children often have fascinating lives. They follow in their parents' footsteps sometimes they don't. But it's amazing how many families have 25 notables in their immediate family, because they all go off and do their own thing. But there's something in the genetics that just makes them all go out and be achievers. And often it's in the same category. They'll all be musicians, or they'll all be actors, or that we all know, acting families. Politicians that have 3, 4, 5 different, major political leaders in their families. So those are fascinating. But just what happened to the brothers and sisters? This guy succeeded and went to outer space. What did his brothers and sisters do? I love those kinds of stories. So that's something, and those are profiles that often get neglected, because people go on and they create the celebrity's profile, the notable's profile, and they add profiles for parents, siblings, etc., but they don't flesh them out. They don't write their stories. So there's something that can be done. And we periodically get questions from people saying, why do we waste time with notables at all? Why don't we just work with normal everyday people? Well, the fact is that notables are just everyday people. They just happen to be well known. But when you start working on their family tree, they're just families like any other family. And they boost the profile count on WikiTree when we build up those profiles. The thing is that when we go advertise, people have heard me say this before, but when I go advertise, come help me work on my uncle's profile, nobody shows up. But if I say, come work on Elvis's profile, everybody will be there. So that's what it's a marketing tool. But particularly people that are not active WikiTreeers, it draws people in. But when we have our challenges, see who you're related to, people love that stuff, and that's just part of, at least in the West, I think that's part of our culture. And again, if we just put up profiles of everyday people, I'm not sure we get quite as many participants. So that's why one of the reasons we focus on notables. But again, as soon as you get past that famous person, that astronaut, the family is just like any other family, and we're tracing ancestors. We're again, brothers, sisters, cousins, all of those people. The other thing is, sometimes I'll see a profile for an astronaut, or I notice this with a lot of the astronauts. Very thorough description of their astronaut career, but almost nothing about their childhood, nothing about their retirement years, nothing about their hobbies, what they did in between. So as great as these profiles look, from a genealogical perspective, they're actually very lacking. So that's something that somebody could do with the astronauts project, is go in and See if there's additional information that can be added. We find that a lot of the time with notables. I haven't found it with the astronauts, but you'll find cut and paste from WikiTree or Wikipedia. Somebody created the profile and copied the Wikipedia. That's a big no-no on WikiTree, but people do it all the time. But when you look at it, you don't realize that at first, and it just looks like a really thorough profile. But they haven't looked. You'll notice there are no references to census records or birth certificates or death certificates. It's just one big blurb that apparently came out of their head, but no, it came out of WikiTree, or very often another website that had a biography that got copied and pasted. So that's another thing to look for is, not only is the profile thorough and good looking, but is it actually original and not taken from another site. So there's a lot of things that can be done. The other thing is that this project has been dormant. It was created in 2021. It lasted for a year or two, and then it's kind of sat there. So there may be updates that need to go into it. There's new astronauts out there, additional astronauts that have passed away. I know we've had a few just in the last couple years, which makes access to their profiles easier. So there are people that may have been big names, but they were living up until recently, and therefore people were not working on their profiles. So there's a lot that can be done with this project. And again, I think it's an excellent example of how somebody just took their own interest and created something just for themselves to do in their spare time. And he never actually, to my knowledge, advertised it much and got much of a group project going. But it'd be a real simple thing to do on G2G is say, hey, anybody want to join me? Send me a note, and you get your little community together, and then you just have fun. And another thing I want to say, Christopher was talking about the Great Migration Project and the Mayflower Project, and some of these older projects, they're an outstanding element of WikiTree, but they have a lot of rules, and these are important profiles, and we have to be careful that we're being sometimes people think some of them are a little bit nitpicky about things, but there's a reason for that. But on the flip side, we have projects like this that are really good for beginners. If you're intimidated by some of the rules of some of our other projects, notables, you can do a TV show. You can do the cast of I Dream of Jeannie, and you're looking over your shoulder, making sure everything is in tip-top shape. You can make mistakes. You can, I always say if you're looking at a blank page, and you can get it up to a C grade level, that's better than the blank page. You don't have to get it to an A grade level. Other people will come in and they'll fix it up. So do what you know, do what you can. But again, I think a lot of these smaller mini notables projects are a really good place to begin if you're intimidated by some of the more advanced projects. And then the other thing I will say is we have a lot of people they're available to help you out if you get stuck. So if you're trying to create a page and you're not figuring it out, send me an email, send one of my co-leaders. We got Scott and Brian here. We've got a bunch of coordinators and then just members that are always happy to help, or go on G2G and say, help, I'm stuck, and somebody will walk you through it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And Sandy is correct. I think we just showed her comment. If you have a favorite topic, go ahead and create a FSP. I know one of them I'm thinking of is family reunion. And maybe I can get more of my family members involved and get them to join WikiTree.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be notable. It can be like you said, it could be your own family. It can be your community, a neighborhood. You got, similar with the one place studies. If you want to do, just the neighborhood you grew up in and go, research all of your old. I was talking with one of my siblings the other day about the neighborhood we grew up in, and all the grown-ups in the neighborhood have all passed away. And we wonder whatever happened to them after we grew up and moved away. It'd be kind of a fun thing to go and get all of them onto WikiTree. So there's an unlimited number of options out there for these mini projects. And again, you don't have to be sponsored by anybody. You don't have to get approval. You just go on and create your page and have fun with it.
Do your thing.
And do your thing, or go out and get people to join you and help you do your thing.
Yeah.
But no pressure.
Yeah. Awesome.
And you learn a lot. You learn a lot about the workings of WikiTree and how all these, how to get your free space page up and the technological stuff. You learn new skills. Tracing other people's family trees is really can open up doors to things that you're not going to find with your own family tree. We get kind of sometimes stuck in, we're working on our family tree and it takes us on a particular path, but there's all kinds of other stuff out there that our family isn't going to touch. So that gives you that opportunity. And then again, from a social standpoint, when the weather gets tough and it's snowing and you're stuck in the house, it's really great to be able to go on WikiTree and have faces of people to talk to and that share your interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
David.
thank you, David. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christopher.
Just a quick question. David, you mentioned one astronaut who I think you said had been profiled, but the profile hadn't been developed at all. I'm just curious, who was that?
I want to say I've got the list here, and I want to say it was Russell Schweikart, I believe is how his name was.
Rusty Schweikart. Yeah.
Schweikart, yeah. And so he's got a timeline, but he has no narrative on his profile.
Huh.
It says 1935, born in Neptune, New Jersey, 1956, Bachelor of Science degree, 1969, flew on Apollo 9. So it's got a little bit of an outline. But it, and outlines are great, but it's really nice if we can get a story to go along with it too. And again, there's nothing about his parents. There's nothing about siblings, where he grew up. It jumps from, his birth to graduating from college. So it skips everything in between. So there's a lot to history. And that's all, 56 is when he graduated. So he's probably in the 1940 census. He's probably in the 1950 census. So he's old enough that there's records out there.
Well, I'll take a look at that. I'm so glad you're on here talking about this. I actually have met two of the older astronauts, Buzz Aldrin and Fred Hayes, in different venues. And I just had never thought about looking on WikiTree to see if they're profiled at all. And now I definitely will. But I'll look at Schweikart and see if I can find.
And I have a funny story along that line too. When I was a child, one of the moonwalkers came to my school and I met him and was just thrilled about this. It was so exciting. To this day, I have no idea who it was. Because I was a kid. I didn't pay attention to the name. I don't know what his name was. I've tried to look on newspapers.com and stuff to see if there's any articles, but haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
You don't have any teachers still alive we could ask?
Yeah. I don't. Probably not. We're probably gone by now, but
yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there's people that know. I just have to take the time to sort that out.
Yeah.
But
a few years ago, I was a member of the National Technical Association, and a lot of our members work for Rockwell, and so I got to meet Guyan Bluford. I believe he's in our list, so we'll be going through him shortly. But I got to meet him as well as Mae Jameson, who hasn't made it to our list. So we're going to get our women's rights going here.
Yeah, I grew up right outside of Pasadena, California, and basically, I won't say walking distance from JPL, but bicycle riding distance.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of neighbors who were involved in the space industry, not astronauts necessarily, but that was a big industry in our town. So it was a big deal when people landed on the moon and et cetera. The first space shuttle and all of those things were just, super exciting to our generation.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we can't tell. Nobody knows how many people are up in outer space at any given moment.
Right. It's going to be a regular trip here pretty soon.
Yeah.
If things go as certain people would expect, yeah. Making regular trips to the moon and maybe Mars. But thank you, David, and thank you for sharing that information about the astronaut project.
And anybody that knows me and has worked with me knows how much I love doing mini projects. And if somebody wants to do one, doesn't know where to start or get stuck, just send me an email, and we'll get you going, because that's my WikiTree thing, is mini projects. So
cool. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And again, to those of you listening now and later on during the recording, if you have an interest in anything at all, any topic, you can start that project yourself, or you can go out and you can help the astronaut project. There's still plenty of names out there of astronauts that have not had a profile created yet. So you can also work on those, do the research about them, and work on those, and think about the kids. This is information that kids talk about in school, and you can always refer them to WikiTree for some of their research, perhaps. So keep that in mind as well.
Denise, there's a particular slant where Buzz Aldrin is concerned. I don't know how you would do this really, but David, maybe you'd have an idea. Buzz Aldrin suffered very seriously from depression after he came back. That's actually how I met him. He was involved with someone I knew, and they were working on I guess I would say, publicizing the issue of depression, which affects so many people. But it somehow suggests a potential crossover with someone like Buzz Aldrin between, yes, he's famous as an astronaut, but he also had a lot to offer in terms of just helping those of us, and I'm one of them, who suffered from depression, and he was really responsible in some ways for bringing the issue to public attention in a way that had never been done before. I don't know quite how you do a
and that's what I addressed earlier with so many of these celebrities, whether astronauts or other people. There's so much more to their life than than what I'm working on the Westward Ho project right now, and was working on some of the big names, Doc Holliday and Letterman. Doc Holliday has about 10 of the 12 paragraphs on his page are about the OK Corral, which lasted for 30 seconds. That was 30 seconds of his life, and it's 75% of his profile. And it's like, where's all of the other stuff that he did with his life? And that's the stuff that fascinates me. So so you can write about it just in narrative form. There's categories that you can add. I'm not sure what's available in terms of depression and mental health issues, but we do have some, particularly if they're outspoken about it. We do have to be a little bit careful with living people, that we're not revealing things that they may not wish to have revealed. But if they're spokesperson for a cause or something, then that's different. But that's the stuff that it's telling their entire story, not just cut and pasting from their Wikipedia article what made them famous. People can go anywhere to get that information. You want to know what flights he flew on, that information's out there all over the place. But if you want to know where he went to elementary school and how he grew up, and what he liked to do as a kid, or what causes he took on outside of NASA, that's the stuff that I think that's where WikiTree has a potential to really be different than any other site out there.
Exactly.
And I won't just say potential, but I think that is how we are. We are different than any other site.
Exactly. Okay, well, thank you. That will conclude the Behind the Branches segment for today. Gives you a lot to think about, and gets you something else to put on your to-do list, something you might be interested in doing. I think from here, should I just go ahead and do Dress for the Times?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was very inspiring.
Yeah, there were some pictures that were added. Of course, for some reason, I lost my ability to share screens.
Oh,
I kept trying to get back to the astronaut project, and I couldn't get back there because I really loved the logo that was there for the astronaut project. But I'm gonna try now with the.
Yeah, FYI, the logo was AI generated.
oh, was
It
out of
was
this
awesome.
world.
Yeah, floating in space, and I'm trying to share. Here we go. Okay.
Yes. Can you zoom in, please?
Zoom in.
Can you zoom in?
Yes.
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to get to the pictures. There were some that were added here, like this one. This is Charlie and Mother Hattie.
Mhm.
This photo was. That's all I see here.
Oh, you can go below. You can see the responses to the post.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
Yeah, isn't that gorgeous?
Nice.
I don't do this very often, folks, so bear with me. I'm still learning.
Denise?
Yes.
Because you're showing the gallery of photos, but if you go back, you can show the responses, the replies to the posts.
Okay. I'm going to go back.
So yes, go below.
And we'll scroll down.
Yes.
And that's all I
No,
get.
we're not seeing the post. You're in the gallery, but we can see the pictures anyway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's it. Maybe it's a different
You
page.
mean the G2G post, right, Vicki?
I'm sure there's a link to the G2G post.
Yeah, it's probably above the photos on the left. If you scroll up, can you scroll up a little bit more?
Yeah. Let me go back.
Let me share the link.
Yeah, I just see 7 photos for Dress for the Times. Because there's some that were posted here, and then some, I think some of these same ones were posted on.
I shared the link on the private chat.
Mm-hmm.
Look to your right. You can see the private chat.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So we can see the comments and what people said about the photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I just clicked on share this tab.
They're great.
There you go.
Here we go. Okay. And I think we saw this one earlier because this was created August 7th.
Yeah.
There's some more. Of course, we've seen that one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of jewelry. This was created on August 10th. Added by Nelson.
It was a brooch.
Yeah. This one, another one, August 7th by Brenda Millage.
Yeah, I think we saw that one.
We saw this one last time too, I believe.
Very nice.
This is the one we were trying to get to for Diane Spencer.
Right.
D Spencer Carr. Her newly found family. That's D right there.
D, yeah.
D.
Newly found family. Now this one was also there by Melanie Paul. I don't think we got to see this one.
Oh, that's a nice one. And Melanie's in the chat.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is she?
She was. I don't know. I mean, it's very late over there, so.
It is.
Oh, it looks like he's holding a diploma.
Yeah.
That could be. Yeah.
Maybe it's him and his parents.
That makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or, he just purchased some new real estate and it's his deed.
Indeed.
Who knows? That could be almost anything. Let's keep going here. Come on.
Oh, yeah. The photos are,
These are the ones, Chris Wine tried to add. Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. No, they're not uploaded. I saw that.
This is one that Chris finally got uploaded. This lady name is Helen Toth. On the back, it says my girlfriend. I'm not sure when it was taken. It could have been my uncle's girlfriend, but I am not sure. Oh, that's the picture above. And this one, I am not sure if I have shown this one. This is when Grandma caressed to see Washington, D.C. with a bunch of Girl Scout leaders from Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
Oh.
Nice.
Girl Scout leaders. Wow. What else?
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, struggling to get a valid post. Please ignore
Mm.
it. Delete.
Oh.
Oh, that's a pretty dress.
Nice.
Wow.
That's a choir dress.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Maggie.
Yeah. This is my mom from 1953 in her choir dress before she went to her high school to have a group choir photo taken. That's nice. Thanks, Judy, for sharing.
Yes.
Mhm.
That ended up in the senior yearbook. It should. Isn't she precious? Yes, she
Very
is.
nice. Mhm.
Oh, Judy, is that a black and white dress?
It looks like it, doesn't it?
For the theme?
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Judy. That's gorgeous. And I think that's, I haven't seen that one.
It's quite a story.
Yoga party.
Hadn't seen that one. Rewarded with a magnum of champagne.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's never too late to go to the ball. The leper.
Oh, the
is
leper. Oh, the
still
one who's not the tech is the leper. Is dressed as a leper.
Yeah, I think the leper is the ancestor, the relative of Rick.
Oh.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick.
Mm,
And here we've got smoking the pipe.
nice.
Sitting
That's
standing
mine.
on deck. Okay.
That's yours?
Yeah.
That's mine, yeah.
Oh.
Great grandfather Willie Borchers
Uh-huh.
was a merchant sailor.
Yes. He sailed the world for 8 years. He started his training as a sailor when he was 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 years after that, he started to travel around the world.
Wow.
And there you can see him in a Popeye look.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a special how would you say? Well, when they crossed, each time they crossed the Ecuador, the
The equator, yeah.
equatorial,
Mm-hmm.
the equator. Thank you, Ecuador en español.
Mm-hmm.
They threw these big parties where every man of the crew wore costume.
Mm.
So that's what I had in mind when we said dressed for the time. If you could zoom in, please, because
they're dressed
will
like
not see-
Clear.
yes,
Clear with the dresses.
you can say, yeah, the one on the left is my great grandfather dressed as a woman.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and the one below where you can see that they're all dressed as clowns, some kind of devils.
Wow.
My great grandfather is the one. I think there's someone dressed as a beer can, because
wow.
he has something like a beer can on his head.
Oh,
And
yeah.
to the left, that is my great grandfather, and he must have been like 15 around that time.
Oh.
Wow.
I don't know what he's dressed like, but in the next photograph, we can see him again dressed as a woman. So, well, that's something new. That's how
That's
they
wild.
celebrate it.
Huh.
Crossing the line, yes.
Crossing
Yeah,
the line.
they say it crossing the
It crosses the line.
equatorial line
Mm.
or something like that.
Now here's some recent photos that I found. Who is this?
Wine.
Chris.
All right. It's an awfully
Oh,
tiny photo.
but it opened in a new
Yeah.
tab, and we're not seeing that.
Yeah, and it's well, I'm about to share it, but it's awfully tiny.
Yeah, that looks like it's a
Oh,
protected photo. So it must be the
so it's
profile
private.
photo.
Like the
Mhm.
thumbnail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's not going to be very good when I make it larger. They're all blurred. Cute little kids though. It looks like 4 kids, maybe 5. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rick said he was the leper in the photo.
Okay. Back.
So a lot of costumes.
Yeah.
For this theme.
Yeah.
Okay, we're still seeing your protected. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop sharing it so I can go to another page. You know, this computer is about 10 years old. Just a lesson.
No.
This is on my wish list for Christmas.
I noticed you said that very loudly, Denise.
Oh, yes. Let me see if there's any others down here. Yeah, we have those. I think. Yeah, that was it. That last one from Chris. That was it. So those are our photos. I do not know what the theme will be for September. But we are definitely going to try to make sure that we get a lot of folks participating in the month of September. One of the things, because these come in so infrequently, what I would like to do is just share these toward the end of the month, like the last meeting, last Saturday roundup in the month. And I'd like your feedback on that. What do you think? Because trying to do these every week can be challenging. We don't always have people participating in providing photos. So if you'll just let us know in the chat or in the comments afterwards, what you think about that. If I show these just once a month toward the end of the month, that'll give people more time to get their pictures in.
Right.
Okay? And
I was just sorry to interrupt. The September theme is portraits.
Okay.
Yeah. So we should get a lot of those. But yeah, I'd love to hear your feedback on that. But of course, let me know before next Saturday so I'll know what I'm doing. So give me your feedback on what you think about us sharing those photos toward the end of the month, and that gives people the entire month to add those photos,
right?
So that we can share them.
And let me add something. If you have any idea that of a new section that you would like to see, or maybe something that we're missing, please, we're open to suggestions. So let us know. What do you want to see?
And yes, Chris Ferriello, I do need an upgrade. You're absolutely right. I need more space. Right now I've got about 15 tabs open, and that slows things down a bit.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even want to tell you how many tabs I have on Firefox.
No.
I didn't count the ones that are in groups already. So I got a lot of groups going on here too. So, but yeah, that concludes the dress for the times for the month of August.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Denise.
Cool.
Vicki, you want to take it away?
Oh no, I'm done.
Oh, you're done.
Now it's Betsy's turn.
Right. Okay.
Should we do
question of the week?
Question of the week. Yes. So let me get over there. Okay, so question of the week is, do you have any aviators in your tree? Going along with David's mini project with the astronaut page.
Space.
So we have a very nice, heroic photo here.
Nice.
Yes, and
Yeah, we do have a female aviators project out there somewhere.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
We did have quite a number of the responses were about women aviators, which was
Excellent.
great to see. I have to say, everybody who responded, you made it really hard on me. There were so many fantastic answers, and I can't possibly share them all. There were 67 when I started reading. There are now 68.
Wow.
Oh my Lord.
Wow.
In terms of themes that I noticed, fascination with flying starts young. So oftentimes it was a real strong childhood interest that blossomed into a career. Many of the aviators served in the military, and we thank them for their service. So that was a very frequent part of the stories. And then, as we've said, things run in families. So, where there was one aviator, we would often have a nephew or a son or a daughter who also followed in those footsteps. So first we have, first we have Alexis's husband, Captain Mike Wilson. Here he is in 1970, and standing by his combat rescue helicopter that he flew out of South Vietnam. So for 2 years, he was a pilot who flew supplies all over the world, mostly into Vietnam, and on returning to the U.S., he was flying wounded back to Andrews Air Force Base, bodies back to Dover, Delaware, and home to me at Warner Robins Air Force Base in Georgia. Lovely photo. Thank you, Alexis. Wonder what that is on the left of the photo. Looks like a cylinder, like a tank,
maybe oxygen.
Yeah, fuel tank of some sort. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Then next one up is from Jay Stanojevic. I'm so Stanojevic. Okay, that's better than I could do. Thank you, Vicki. And Jay writes, not a direct ancestor, a second cousin once removed. He was a handsome young pilot, and then he crashed in 1956 before he could have any descendants. He was the only surviving son of a widowed mother. Do have a picture of him from the newspaper. Let's see. So, wait a minute. It was on the second page. Okay, so here's the front page. It's Yugoslavia. He was Yugoslavian, by the way. So yes, here he is, and you can see the name. So is it big enough? He is very handsome. Yeah. So over here on the right-hand side.
Okay. Oh, I thought it was on the left.
I thought it was
yeah. This one on the right-hand side. Yeah. I guess obituary. So thank you, Jay, for sharing that. And then, wait, I had one more on that page. Dick Pennock wrote, my aunt, Mary Eugenia, formerly Straub Pennock, who was nicknamed Tig Pennock, was a professional pilot for most of her adult life. She earned her pilot's license in the early days of her marriage, and then she went on to earn her instrument rating, commercial rating, instructor's rating, instrument flight instructor rating, and airline transport pilot's rating, the top rating available.
Wow.
And she said, referring to the cost of earning those licenses, Tig said, there's a lot of money to be made in aviation. I know, because I put it there. She had quite a career teaching and flying commercial planes, and she was also a member of the 99s, an association of women pilots founded by Amelia Earhart, competed in 3 all-woman transcontinental air races, and she finished 3rd of about 200 entries in that competition. She was also a friend of movie stunt pilots, such as Frank Tolman and Paul Mantz of Tolman's Aviation. So that's quite an illustrious career.
Wow.
Thank you. And then let's see, Bob Mullen. Bob Mullen, who is a newt, welcome to WikiTree, Bob, said, I am a retired Army helicopter pilot. So we did have quite a few people say, me. He flew the venerable UH-1 Huey and retired as a CW03 instructor pilot / night vision goggle instructor pilot in 1990. He flew all variants of the Bell 206, quite a few models of planes, for a combined total of 32 years and 15,700 hours of flight time. Wow. Thanks God for his career and safety throughout the years. So, then Marion Cerruti. Who knew? Marion is a pilot. So it runs in her family. So she shared that my father and my brother's father-in-law were aviators, and I am an aviator. Her father flew experimental aircraft in the early 20th century. And then her brother's father-in-law was a Navy aviator, and Marion is a retired commercial pilot and flight instructor.
Great.
Yeah. Dave Tyler, another newt. I'm loving seeing all these newts answering the question.
That's great.
Yeah. Dave says that I have both pilot and aircraft mechanic FAA certifications. I did not make a living using these certifications per se, but I worked in the commercial aviation industry for 50 years, and the knowledge gained from the training was invaluable. So, it goes to show that, I think I said maybe a week or two ago about music, that the career possibilities are more than just standing on the stage with your instrument or singing. You can apply that knowledge so broadly. Yeah. Robin Lozier said, my dad learned to fly a glider and also got his private pilot's license back in the 70s. My sister and I used to take turns going with him on the 2-hour drive to the nearest flying school. So that's a commitment. That's 4 hours of driving in a day. While he was up flying, we would hang out in the rec room, eating candies and racking up the pool balls to play pool. And then after the family came back from our overseas missions, I think it got too expensive for Dad to pick up and continue to get any more further pilot licenses back in the 80s. So then just 2 more 3 more. So this is from Rod Corkum, who says that he has an American 6th cousin, John A.C. Campbell III. He is not on WikiTree yet. So, Rod, we can't wait for you to put him up here. He joined before the U.S. entered the war. He was eventually sent to the Far East, shot down, and spent 3.5 years in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. His son-in-law wrote John's biography titled Where Eagles Fly, and it's a fantastic story. If you're interested, the book is out of print, but Rod included a YouTube link where there's an audio version.
Nice.
Yeah, we have pictures here. As a side note, John's 3rd great-grandmother, Hannah Corkum, from Chester, Nova Scotia, is the earliest known Corkum I have found in the U.S. She married a Mormon missionary from Halifax, and they moved to Utah. Well, I wonder if Hannah is on WikiTree.
Yeah.
Another picture here from Karen. Karen Oy says, my dad, Carol Mitchell, test fighter pilot, was buzzing around the Gulf of Mexico on high alert during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Scary times. But that's what a great shot of him.
Nice.
I wonder what he was thinking. And let's see. Then our last one is from Lynn Towers. Yes, there we go. Lynn's paternal grandfather joined the Navy during World War I in Pensacola. He was one of the first Silver Eagles, helped to test the Navy's first amphibious plane. Then he was a Navy pilot guarding the Panama Canal. Can one of you help me? What is barnstorming? Is anyone?
Barnstorming.
That's an old-time aerial performance. It included amazing stuff like guys standing on the wings of planes while they were doing loops, and just remarkable.
Okay.
Stuff.
Acrobacies, right?
I'm sorry?
It's acrobacy?
Oh, acrobatics.
Yes.
Acrobatics.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So after leaving the Navy, he flew barnstorming races and met up with Lindbergh. Yeah, he navigated the route for Lindbergh and himself to fly the first airmail route from Miami to Panama in 1929. Her grandfather flew the return mail back to Miami alone as Lindbergh went on elsewhere. A letter in her grandmother's diary stated that her grandfather beat Lindbergh to Panama and had to fly back out looking for him as Lindbergh was running late. Lindbergh, of course, was given the honor for the mail route, although my grandfather is mentioned in one newspaper account as being the first. And there's a first airmail edition stamped envelope honoring that flight. That's very cool. And
nice, yeah.
Has it. Yes, he later became, her dad said that his father always flew too fast and too close to the sun. He was a Navy airplane mechanic during World War II. Oh, that was her dad. So again, running in the family. And her dad later became a aeronautical engineer and built a Stolp Starduster 2 in our garage when I was in high school. And she received a pilot's license at the age of 16.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you all. And seriously, great reading. So, get your aviator scarf and maybe some goggles and have a read this weekend. We have one more August ancestor to celebrate. And this is from Amanda Myers, who I hope is still with us.
Are you still here? Is she still awake?
Quite late. Yeah. This is her grandfather, born on August 24th, 1909. So just had a birthday anniversary this past week. And he was born to Clarence Thomas Bilcox. He was born, his given name was Clarence Thomas Bilcox, to an unwed mother. And Amanda said on the profile that they were able to prove who his mother was through DNA, which is fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then he was adopted and his name became Gray. His surnames were Gray and Stewart. So going over to the profile, first of all, notice this super cool background of the painting tools.
Yeah.
I hope I find out more about that. So in the biography, she explains that he was raised by a nurse. Now, the term nurse was an earlier term for foster mother. So I don't know if she was originally a nurse, but that's how she's referred to in the document. And her first husband was Thomas Gray. So that explains the Gray surname. Now, Thomas passed away in 1913 from an accident, sadly. And then Celia remarried to John Rigby Stewart, and then he became Stewart. So he always considered Rigby and Celia as his parents, and goes to talk about his descendants. And I want to go down to the memories because we're honoring memories this week. And there are some great ones here. First of all, to satisfy your curiosity about the paintbrushes, where is it? Yes, Amanda says, my grandparents raised me from an early age until I was 11 or 12. As a painter and decorator, it was my job. He was a painter and decorator, and it was Amanda's job in the evening to make sure that all splatters of paint had been washed away from his face and neck.
Wow.
And then the other thing she writes about is that he began in the 30s. He worked at a race course as a scratcher. So that meant that he sat behind the scoreboard and manually changed the numbers of the winning horses. So he did that for 50 years. Goodness. Wow. And they named a race the Stewart Handicap just for him. And then he and our family were invited into the member stand to watch his race. 58 years he did that. He only ever missed one race meeting when he was in hospital. He was given a lifetime badge for the member stand at any race meeting in Werribee. In a newspaper article, he said one of the best things about retiring was that he could finally have a legal bet on the horses at his race course.
Wow.
Oh, you brought him to life for us, Amanda.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Very cool.
A
Well
scratcher.
done.
I thought he scratched the horses.
No.
No.
When they're itchy?
You had to scratch those numbers and get them on the board.
Oh.
Yeah.
Scratch means to eliminate a horse from a race. Isn't that like if
Yeah,
you're scratching the scratch?
Yeah.
Scratch them off of the.
Scratch them off the yeah.
Pull their names off. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I had an ancestor who was he worked at a carriage factory, and his job was to strip all the paint off of the carriage. And in the U.S. Census, it lists his occupation as stripper.
No.
That took a bit of unraveling it.
That's funny. Yeah. Okay. Well, our final segment for today, starting at 11:32.
Good luck, Greg.
Yikes. The profiles of the week. Of course, we're following the space connections. So lots of great ones. So we start with Buzz Aldrin. He was the highlight the key one that we was highlighted in the newsletter this week as well. Of course, and he's a distant cousin of mine, 22nd cousin. Look at that. He has a French connection somewhere there. Born 1930, January 20th, 1930, to Edwin Aldrin and Marion Moon. I love this how this is added. Information is added. So he had two older sisters, and he got his nickname because his sister Faye couldn't pronounce the word brother. Called him her buzzer. He my buzzer.
How cute.
And then it stuck, and that's how he became Buzz. I think that's just the cutest thing. So that's something you don't see everywhere else, is these little precious stories. Anyways. Yeah. Went to MIT, of course, United States Military Academy of West Point, Bachelor of Science, second lieutenant in the Korean War, though you would call him a second lieutenant. Sorry about that. Distinguished flying cross fighter squadron flying F-100s. Then got a doctorate of science in astronautics at Massachusetts Institute of Technology at Cambridge. That's very cool. And there's others that have studied on and have doctorates, which is very impressive. Of course, in 1966, he and James Lovell, who's also another profile of the week here, launched the Gemini 12 spacecraft. Another They established a new EVA, extravehicular activity, going outside for a record 5.5 hours. And then they splashed down in 66. Part of the Apollo 11 module mission, along with Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins. So he and Neil, of course, made history being the first people to set foot on the moon. 21 hours altogether they were on the moon's surface, and another 2.25 hours in the EVA, extravehicular. So coming back to Earth in July 24th, 1969. He legally changed his name to Buzz in 1988. I guess up until then it was all just unofficial because of his sister. But there we go. Now, interesting, Christopher, you had mentioned his work with depression, and that's not recorded here on his profile at all. But we certainly have had WikiTree profiles where where it has been incorporated as part of the narrative, and other ones where whether they suffered or not, if they were a champion for mental health cause or something like that, was added. So there's certainly room for that to be there. But again, as David had mentioned, we have to be sensitive to that. So if people are living and they're not ready to talk about that publicly, then we don't want to obviously include that. But if they've been a spokesperson for a cause or something like that where it has been public, then it's certainly fair game to add that.
Yeah, maybe it's one of the 31. Maybe it's one of the 31 categories.
31 categories, and that's what there's so many categories for so many of these profiles this week, but I don't see the word mental health or depression.
The basic rule is with living people, we don't want to write anything that they would not want written themselves.
Exactly.
So it's a judgment call at times, but if they're a public spokesperson for something, that's different than if it's some scandal that was revealed that they don't necessarily want out in public. Even if it is already out in public, we don't reinforce that.
Yeah.
I thought maybe the organization or whatever might be listed as a category, but I'm not seeing anything.
Not seeing it here, no. I love the categories this day in history. That's very cool. That's very cool. I don't often visit those, but it's kind of neat to see.
Especially after we saw those in those profile makeovers.
That's right. Yeah. And I can get distracted and see what's today in history, but no, we're on let's try and get through the other 11 profiles. I'm refusing to go down that one rabbit hole. You guys go ahead. Dive away. Okay. Next one. I'm not sure exactly how we should pronounce his first name. Guyon is how I would pronounce it if it was French.
Guyon.
How would you pronounce it?
Guyon is how he pronounced it. Guyon.
Oh, is it? Okay. Guyon Bluford. Guyon Bluford Jr. Is a notable American aerospace engineer and part of the U.S. Black History Project. Retired U.S. Air Force officer, fighter pilot, former NASA astronaut. He was the first African-American in space. Born in Philadelphia in 1942, one of 4 sons, Bachelor of Science. There we go. Again, assigned to the 557th Tactical Fighter Squadrons that flew over Vietnam, and 144 combat missions. Wow. Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering, and then a bunch of medals. I love so many of these profiles have the medals not only listed, but visually displayed. I think
beautiful.
Cool. It's really nice. I like that. Doctor of Philosophy. See, I told you another doctorate here. Flew in the Challenger STS-8 along with Richard Daniel Tail and William. Got another NASA spaceflight medal from that. And then another Challenger mission, Master of Business, Discovery. So very cool. Very cool. So this is one of those profiles you were talking about that has the nice timeline and shows the medals and stuff. Doesn't have a lot of the fine details of his day-to-day life and other stuff. So,
and sometimes with more recent notables, that's hard to find that
And
information.
it looks like he's still alive. It's just
Yeah,
he was born in the 30s. So again, we don't want to pry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But very neat. Then moving on to Frank Frederick Borman II, born in 1928 in Dairy Lake, Indiana, passed away on 7th November 2023 at the age of 95.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool. United States Air Force pilot, aeronautical engineer, test pilot, NASA astronaut, commanded the Apollo 8, the first mission to fly around the moon. Okay, not to land on it, but he flew around it, so that's the first one. She was so neat. Graduated from Military Academy at West Point again. Number went there. 8th in the class of 670. That's pretty high up. Master of Science at California Institute of Technology. Served in the U.S. Air Force as a colonel, an aeronautical engineer, and NASA astronaut, test pilot, and businessman as well. Here he is addressing a crew of the USS Yorktown after he successfully, after the Apollo 8 splashdown. So in 2023, he was the oldest living former American astronaut at the time. And then, he just passed away at the age of 95. So,
I'm always amazed at how the longevity of these astronauts, it was how many lived into their 90s.
Yeah.
They're still living in their 90s.
Because you got to think, I mean, it had to be physically demanding on their bodies, especially some of those who went up so many multiple times, that list of.
But on the flip side, they had to be in pretty good shape to.
I know the screening
there in the first place. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
And let's not forget the space food.
The space food and Tang. They got
very nutritional and Tang. Yes, that's right.
Oh, there we go. More medals for this one. Now, Dwight D. Eisenhower did not go into space. So I'm thinking, how did he slip in here? But apparently he really promoted the space program. So that was his cue. And one of the things it said in his profile was that he was Pennsylvania Dutch? And so I just opened up his ancestors, and there's lots of Pennsylvania there. Eisenhower spelled differently, more traditionally German, Dutch way. And if we go to continue on that goes all the way back to the 1620s in Odenwald, Baden, Heiliger Rammelreich. So interesting. I'm not going to go much further because Dwight D. Eisenhower, of course, famous U.S. president, and you guys know a lot about him. So we'll just continue on, moving on. Chris Hadfield, Canadian Connection, our Canadian astronaut, born in the 50s, still alive. Engineer, fighter pilot, musician, and writer. So he performed. One of the neat things about Chris was how gregarious he was, and he did broadcasts while he was in space and whatnot. So you may have seen some of those on YouTube and whatnot. Actually did a broadcast singing and playing his guitar to Rocket Man, the Elton John song.
That's
he did
right.
that one
from
from space. We actually had Chris Hadfield as a keynote speaker, motivational speaker at one of our Ontario Math conferences.
Okay.
So I've been in the same room. I don't I wasn't I didn't actually, I don't think I got to shake hands with him, but I was close to him physically in the same room. There we go. So he's a wonderful astronaut there as well. The one thing I had mentioned just before, his pedigree, his ancestry is fairly shallow. And it's not like it because it goes back to his father, born 1934, but we don't have his parents. So this is a challenge I'm throwing out to fellow WikiTreeers is let's fill this out a little bit. So Team Canada.
What's his CC7?
His CC7 is low. It's only 149. So we should be able to do a little bit better than that. So just throwing that challenge out there, people. Homer Hickman Jr., another distant cousin. is an American author, Vietnam War veteran, and a former NASA engineer. He trained the first Japanese astronauts to go into space. So that's kind of a cool connection there. Born in West Virginia in 1943, second of two children. His early life was marked by a passion for rocketry, a hobby he shared with a group of friends he called the Big Creek Missile Agency. Growing up in Big Creek. He wrote a story, best-selling memoir about that. The story was called Rocket Boys, which was later turned into a film. You may have seen the movie called October Sky, which is basically based on his memoir. And what's cool about that, which I hadn't realized until I read this profile, was October Sky is just an anagram, if you just rearrange the letters, of Rocket Boys.
Oh, that's so cool.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
I just thought that was the neatest thing. Anyway, so not only he's been into aeronautics. He's trained Japanese astronauts, and then wrote this memoir, which also turned into an ebook. And he also has a fiction novel as well, Back to the Moon. So very cool inclusion in this. Then we have, I love this one, Catherine Coleman, or Catherine Johnson. Born Catherine Coleman to Joshua McKinley Coleman and Joylette Roberta Lowe. Born in 1918, 26th of August 1918, White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Passed away at the age of 101 on the 21st of February in 2020. So she, of course, is famous because she was one of the calculators, women whose job was to do these amazing computations that helped figure out the trajectories and flight paths for the astronauts for NASA. Back as a mathematician, so you gotta love a mathematician, and you gotta love a mathematician like this who's breaking new ground and doing this amazing work. So she was actually part of NASA before it was even called NASA.
Wow.
And then she continued to work there as a computer. Yeah. So it's kind of funny because her role, she was called a computer before computers were called computers. So she worked for NASA before NASA was NASA. She worked as a computer before computers were called computers. Breaking ground all over the place, this wonderful woman. And of course, her life has been detailed in the movie that came out just a while back. Got the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Obama, and was alive to get that. So that's kind of neat, right? Some of the others who were profiled in the same movie, Hidden Figures is the name of the movie, had already passed away at that point, sadly. But and she was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 2021. So they were just a year too late inducting her. She could have been there alive for the indictment. Then we have Johannes Friedrich Kepler, back in the 1500s, 1571. He was born just after Christmas and passed away 15th of November, 1630 at the age of 58. Of course, he's a famous mathematician, another mathematician here, and physicist, astrophysicist, and astrologer. Apparently, back then, astronomy and astrology were closer linked than they are today. There still was, of course, a huge influence of the church, but despite that, he followed the teachings or discoveries of Copernicus, and of course, Copernicus was not popular with the church because he proved, or his theory was, of course, that the Earth went around the sun as opposed to everything else going around the Earth, right? So that was big news back then, that the Earth was not the center of all things. But of course, Kepler believed that, and his contribution to physics, of course, are Kepler's laws, and how planetary motion works, and it's how you can actually predict the orbits based on distances from the sun and forces of gravity and all that sort of stuff. So very important, of course, work that he's done that made astronauts flights and all of the stuff that we do possible. So there we have that. We have another one, James Lovell, who's been mentioned and has ridden along with many of the other profiles. He rode along with Buzz Aldrin, I believe, and Homer. No, maybe, at least Frank Borman. Yeah, Frank Borman. He flew on Gemini 7 with him. There he is, Gemini 12 with Buzz. Apollo 8. He's done a lot. He was on Apollo 13, the one that almost had the accident, but they came back and they were able to. They didn't make it to the moon, but they did make it back to Earth safely, which is more important, right? Retired from the Navy as a captain, NASA, got the NASA Congressional Space Medal of Honor. Passed away. He's the one just passed away earlier this month on the 7th of August at the age of 97. Lake Forest.
Yeah.
Again, another long-lived one, and one most recently who passed away. So, R.I.P. James, as Steve put in the comments. Ronald Irwin McNair, American physicist and NASA astronaut. He flew on 2 Challenger space shuttles, and I was doing a search for the word Challenger, and he was unfortunately in the Challenger that exploded in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Born in Lake City, South Carolina, 1950. And then here's his career highlights, the medals he won, and then sadly passing away in 1986. But if you go to the categories, one of the categories is that Challenger flight. And if you open that up, you'll see the list of the profile. So to answer Anne Fiordulisi's question from earlier on in the chat, yes, there is a category for the Challenger flight and the people who were on that. So in fact, there are many, many categories for the astronauts. So we are not shy of categories, which is very cool. Eleanor Crockett Presley, who we talked about earlier as well, renowned physicist known as the Miss Rocketeer throughout the space industry. She helped break traditional barriers, another barrier breaker along with Katherine Johnson, particularly in different STEM fields for women. She was known as the first woman to launch a rocket, or to fire a rocket in the White Sands Proving Grounds in New Mexico. So that's kind of a cool first. Her work was always highly technical and time sensitive. She had to keep an eye on the anemometer and the other on the wind reports for the balloons. Like, it was pretty precise science that she was balancing there. So amazing science and mathematics as well. Apparently she had bright blue eyes, blonde hair, and an infectious laugh. And I like this quote here. Later this year, if the Earth satellite is launched and as planned and the world applauds the first man-made moon, remember that a woman had a finger in it too.
Mm-hmm.
And more than just one, I might add.
Yeah.
There we go. And the final profile is Peggy Whitson, female astronaut, American biochemistry researcher, NASA astronaut, former NASA chief astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. And then we have her timeline of her some medals, exceptional service, various patches and stuff that received, flying on so many things, including most recently the Soyuz, along with Oleg Novoselsky and Thomas Pesquet. There we go. And those are your profiles of the week.
Yay! Yay! And we have a trivia question.
Oh my, what's that?
How many of the astronauts or those in the aeronautics arena were Appalachian? I'm seeing Sandy's notes.
Yeah, who asked that question?
I wonder who would have asked
I'm asking that question, yeah. How many were Appalachian? Yeah.
Oh, wow. So Lots of things coming up. Question of the week on Monday is, do you have Scottish roots? And of course, the name study is Paisley. That's pretty Scottish too.
We're all about Scotland.
I think we're all going to Scotland next week.
Yep.
Scottish notables on Tuesday, Paisley on Wednesday, Scottish clans on Thursday. Now, Askalesh is being moved to Fridays because once Labor Day comes, then my grandkids come back. We look after them during the school day because both of their parents, my daughter and her husband, are both high school math teachers. So we get the grandkids during the school day, which is great, but does make some things a little more difficult. So we are moving Friday morning is a better time for me than Wednesday, middle of the week. So we will Askalesh. So this September, this coming Friday will be the first time we move Askalesh to Friday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So join us then. Rod Stewart, featured in the Hall of Fame, and others. Scottish roots there. And then we'll be back on Saturday. And a couple things from the G2G. There was did you notice that you have a day, a 3 days count now?
Yes. So cool.
Oh.
Yes. So it tells you how many days you've been actually actively adding to the tree.
Yes, I noticed. Yeah.
And then out of the last 90, how many of the last 90, which ones? So which is very kind of cool. So you could, if I open up my own, I'll just show you that quickly as it loads. So I have worked for 928 days since I joined in 2018. And only 40 of the last 90 have I actually added to it. So I guess I've been slacking off. Yeah, sorry. So check out that post. Read the announcement from Chris. It's kind of neat. Our upcoming WikiTree challenge for September will be for Mark Thompson. You may know Mark. He's done lots of workshops. He has a podcast with Steve Little on AI and genealogy. Anyways, it'll be fun to work on him. You can sign up for him. The sign up for the Sourceathon will go live on Monday, and lots of other fun stuff. But I do believe it's time now to let people get back to the rest of their regular lives.
And do more WikiTree, yes.
And doing more WikiTree and stuff. So thank you for joining us for almost 2 solid hours. I can't believe people have still stuck with us. Thank you to our special guests, Christopher and David, for joining us. And of course, my fellow co-hosts. And thank you to all of you. So have a great week, everyone.
Okay.
We'll see you.
See you next week.
See you next week.